Hello and welcome to The View from the Top. It is June the 25th. I am your host, Brian Friedman from Benevo. And well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We have got just a fantastic show lined up for you today, because today, well, we call it The View from the Top, but actually, in a way, we're going to flip it. Today, we're going to be looking at global mobility through new eyes. We're going to be looking at global mobility through the eyes of the intern. We're going to be talking about internship programs, how they work, why you should have one, what people think about them, the benefits, the risk factors. We're going to be talking not just to Jannette Matula from Scout, but also to her intern, Reagan Miller. And we're going to be getting the intern's perspective. What's mobility like for the newcomer, for the person new into the industry, straight out of university, coming into our wonderful industry? So it's going to be absolutely fascinating. So we've got a great show. Now, wherever you are in the world, please write in the comments box. Tell us who you are, where you are, what's going on in the world. Let us know. We've got, as I said here, join in the conversation, write in the comments box. We are live right now. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube, and we will be available also as a podcast on Spotify. So wherever you want to see us, we are around. So we've got Rob Zeited in the house. Always good to see you, Rob. A hot and humid Massachusetts. It's hot and humid pretty much everywhere at the moment, it seems to be. It's that time of year, isn't it? Certainly for those of us in this hemisphere. So we've got CPE codes for you. So if you want your CPE codes, if you want them from ERC, we've got the ones from the GMS or the CRP credits, they're there. If you want them from HRCI or from SHRM, they are there too. So many thanks to our really good friends at ERC for those codes, and to our friends at Rocket Mortgage who have got us the HRCI and the SHRM codes. So very exciting. And next week, we've got another exciting. How can next week even be July? I don't understand where this year is going. We're already half the way through the year. We've had the longest day. We're moving into July. And next week, we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to be talking about ethics, and we're going to be talking about being strategically ready for AI. And our special guest is Karen Hale from Indeed. Indeed, I think a company many of you will know, and obviously they are at the cutting edge of technology themselves, and certainly at the cutting edge of talent acquisition. So fantastic show lined up for you next week. Meanwhile, what's been going on this week? What's the news in our industry? Well, you know how you find out. You watch this show, and we will show you our breaking news video about what's been going on. So everybody, sit back and enjoy, and we're going to be showing you just now who has been promoted in our industry, who's got a new job, and if you're looking, what job opportunities are out there right here, right now. So let's run that video. So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who's got a new job. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted. And if you're looking, there's loads of jobs out there. And if you've got information you want to share with the industry, if you've had a promotion, if you've got a new job, or indeed you've got a job role that you want to fill, let us know, and we will do whatever we can to publicize that. So what next? Well, as ever, we're going to be talking about immigration. And as ever, I'm so excited. We have backstage with us Julia Onslow Cole. So you know how it works. Let's hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome onto our stage Julia Onslow Cole.
Hi, Brian.
Welcome to the show. And I know you're going to be talking about crisis management today and how timely, I mean, with everything that's been going on, especially in the Middle East, but other places as well. So tell us a bit about what's going on at the moment and how people should be preparing.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I mean, I think it's particularly difficult time geopolitically because, as you say, I mean, there's so many conflicts going on. It's not just one conflict, and they're happening simultaneously. So it's a really, really difficult landscape to navigate. And the situation that has been front of mind in the news for the last few days with Iran, is still very fragile.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everybody hopes peace has broken out in the last 24 hours or so, but
yeah, but it's still very tense, and there's heightened tension everywhere. And still, obviously, companies are contingency planning. So one of the things I was going to say is that obviously it seems very obvious to say this, but it's really important in global mobility that you're working very closely in your crisis management group with the security people who are helping you with logistics and security, but also your travel people, so that you really are coming together as one group and having meetings with everybody. And this importance of cross-functional response framework is really brought to light a few days ago, where we were advising some clients, and what had happened is that they had not really liaised in a cross-functional way, and they were looking at moving a number of Indian nationals out of Israel, and they kind of thought of it from a logistical perspective and saw that there's 3 points at which there is a border crossing with Jordan, and they didn't check in about their immigration status, and only one of those 3 border crossings are available for visa on arrival. The other 2, you need a visa before you go, and unfortunately they went to the wrong crossing. So it really does highlight in a very, very real way, there's something's just happened in the last few days, the importance of working together on the ground holistically. And also, the other thing I wanted to say is that it's really important when there's a crisis that you know where your employees are. And that might sound silly, but it is.
It's not absolutely not silly. I think that is the most important thing. It's the starting point is to know where everybody is.
Because a lot of companies, you might have a travel policy that you can only book your flights with us, and therefore you think that you'd know by ringing the travel desk, but actually they might have taken a different flight for other reasons. Or often what happens is they might have a lot of people with them. They might have their mother visiting, for example. I mean, this has happened a lot recently. And this really matters, because when you're considering what to do with them, you obviously have to consider them holistically. You can't find a plan for a family, but not the mother that's visiting. And she might have a different nationality and a different visa status. So you have to be able to really know where your employees are, and also in a crisis, know who's with them. And then also know what sort of visas they have, because it can be quite surprising and, quite impactful if in fact they have a Schengen visa or if they have another type of visa. And so you really need to know that. Also, it's very important that you ask your employees to register their presence with their home country embassy. And again, that's something that was really brought to light over the last few days, because if, for example, say the British government is saying, look, we're going to put on flights now, but we're going to only offer them to those people that have registered. If you've not registered, then, you know, that's quite difficult. And it's actually not that easy to register. You know, there's a lot of information that you will be required to ask. So it's really important you do that. And the other thing is to say that I've seen this time and again, but often employees don't know where their marriage certificate is or their birth certificate. So like before you go on assignment, you need to make sure that you're having protocols so that people that go, you know, they actually are not just going with their only original copy. You know, they're taking certified copies, or a certified copy is at home. I had a very amusing, really, situation where I was leading on a crisis, and people were being evacuated back to the UK, and I was standing at Heathrow receiving the people that were evacuated, and one of the most senior employees came in, and I said, could I have all your documents? And he said, oh, I actually left my marriage certificate and the birth certificates of the kids in the safe, but I remembered to get my Chelsea Football Club season because I was thinking, London, I might be able to go to a football match. So anyway, we all found that very funny, but it wasn't really very funny at all. It was actually quite cumbersome to arrange. So, you know, thinking of it, and, you know, as well, I've been involved in crisis where people have to leave their house very quickly. So don't take your only copy of your, you know, wedding photographs. You know, that can be very difficult. And then also pets, you know, pets can be a very big issue. And this is something that really relates to your policies. So, you know, do you have comprehensive crisis management policies? And again, in crisis management, I've dealt more troublesome pets than I have in anything else, because obviously pets can't be popped on a plane, and they sometimes have to take long land routes, and therefore you need to know what your policies are. And then where do you go? Where do you take people to if you're evacuating? Obviously, the easiest thing is take them back to their own country or countries of legal residence, but then back to the mother point. If you have, say, a mother-in-law who doesn't have legal residence in that country, then you can't really move the family as a unit. And in all of this, the mantra really should be people and safety first, but also obviously second is business continuity and compliance. So business continuity, you know, if you take them back to their own country where they have residence, they could quickly start working. So it's very, very challenging, Brian, but it, you know, does really demand having a really good crisis management plan in place, which is cross-functional with good information and data feeds. So you really know where your people are. You can find out quickly who they're with, and, you know, really good planning processes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got personal experience of this, and certainly when you move somebody across a border when you're evacuating, you won't be the only person doing it. These border crossings are crazy busy, and I know that the one I was looking at, the border crossing was taking 4 hours in the blazing heat just to get across the border, let alone anything else, because there's a limit. There's limited opening hours of the borders. There's limited people there, and almost by definition, in a crisis, there are thousands of people trying to cross that border. It's very much not business usual. Anyway, Julia, thank you so much for that update. It's super helpful, and as ever, we really appreciate everything you've done. We're now going to move on. We're going to be talking about giving a quick Benevo update before we move on to talk about internships and everything about that Scout Motors is doing, which is just the most fascinating company. So everybody, as we move on, let's say a big thank you to Julia Onslow Cole. I'm going to welcome to our stage Benevo's very own Beth Nilsson. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, and as we thank Julia and welcome Beth, hit the applause button. Hey, Beth, how you doing?
Hello. I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So what's on the agenda today to talk about?
Got some really exciting updates today. For those of you who are Benevo changemakers, you will know that we've got two amazing, exciting changemaker sessions tomorrow, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and there's going to be some amazing reveals. So if you haven't already got it in your calendar, put it there. If you want to be a guest, contact me. We're always looking for new exciting people excited about mobility technology to join the changemakers, and tomorrow is our quarterly meeting. Yeah, really thrilled for that one. Further things that we're doing, we've got a corporate only webinar. So following up from the session that Pankaj and I did last week on global mobility ROI and cost control, that's going to be on the 1st of July. So I think Tally's going to be putting up the link that people can sign up for that. If not, we'll get it out to you. So yeah, 1st of July at 4 p.m. UK time. And finally, in person, I'm going to be coming out into the world, Brian. I will be. I'm going to be attending the Alta Vita event this Friday. I hope to see loads of you there. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Vivi, Carolina, and the team. Thank you again for putting it on. Looking forward to learning more about the sustainable initiatives and seeing a load of our global mobility family there. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, Beth, thank you so much for that, and shout out to all the Alta Vita team for putting on a great event, as I'm sure it will be, and it always is. Okay, we're now going to move on after that excellent update. We're going to move on, and we're going to be talking Jannette Matula from Scout. She's actually coming on, first of all, as our changemaker of the week, and then we're going to move on to the broader issue of internships in global mobility. So everybody, as we bring on our changemaker of the week, Jannette Matula, you know how it works. Everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey, Jannette, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Brian. How are you?
I'm just so excited for today. So tell me, first of all, whereabouts in the world are you, Jannette?
I am in Roswell, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta, Georgia.
Cool. Okay. And well, welcome to the show. So you're our change maker of the day, but also you're going to be the main course as we go on to talk about global mobility internships in a moment. But Jannette, let's just start back at the basics. Okay. I'm sure there'll be people here who know Scout Motors, and there'll be people who don't know Scout Motors. You are a very new organization, part of a much larger organization. So tell us a bit about Scout Motors. Who are they? What do they do? Tell us a bit about the company.
Scout Motors is a wholly U.S. Built company. We are a startup, sort of a subsidiary of Volkswagen Group, but we are going to be building electric and what are considered not hybrid, but electric with fuel-powered range extender pickup truck and SUVs. Hopefully, we will start production of those vehicles in 2007. We are in the process of building our plant in Columbia, South Carolina. Our show vehicle was revealed last October, and we are taking reservations for those vehicles as we speak. We are not quite 1,000 employees yet, but we are super close to that. I was employee number 68.
Wow. So let's put this in context, because this is one of the fastest growing startups, and maybe it's the fastest growing automobile startup of all time, because you only started in 2022, I believe. So
Correct.
3 years ago.
Yes.
And so you started 3 years ago. You said you were employee number, I think you said 68, and you're already up to nearly 1,000. So you are recruiting hundreds of people a month or a year. I mean, or every few months.
Yes.
I mean,
We have some superstar recruiters at Scout Motors.
That must just be, must be recruiting sort of day after day. And what's the aim? How many employees do you want to get up to at Scout?
We're looking for about 4,000, maybe a little more.
Right, in 5 years or so.
Yeah.
From 0 to
actually probably closer to like 2 years, like under 2 years, we would hope to be up to 4,000.
Wow, I mean that's just extraordinary. And the company's pre-revenue at the moment, is that right? Or you're waiting?
That's correct. Yes, yeah. Yes.
So you're building these all-terrain electric-ish, if that's a word.
Yes.
Electric or near electric all-terrain vehicles. I mean, it's a whole new brand that has just been launched in the market by, it said it's a subsidiary of Volkswagen. So exciting. So let's just talk about it from a mobility perspective. I mean, how many people would you say mobility, well, for want of a better phrase, touches? So whether it's sort of assignments or transfers or local hires, but how many people does your group touch?
So my group is responsible for bringing in assignees from abroad into the US only. We don't have any outbound yet. In the future, once we start producing, maybe we'll have Scout Motors in other countries, but we will have about 150 assignees by the end of this year. And then domestically, we've domestically relocated over 100 people in the past year. But then.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think we've lost her. Right. Okay, we're going to move on. I think we have lost. We've lost Jannette. I'm going to move on and bring Reagan onto the stage. Reagan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh no, we've got Jannette back. Okay. Well, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So right. Here we go. The show must go on. Reagan, we're going to be focusing on you at the moment, but I just brought you on as my plan B there because we lost Jannette for a second.
Where did you lose me, Brian?
You were just saying that you had about 150 assignees and about another 100 people were coming on board in domestic moves. And I was about to say that we're looking at as much as maybe 20% or so of the population.
Yes, currently we're about 20% because we also have some from an U.S. immigration only perspective, we have about 25 foreign nationals that we sponsor domestically. So in the future, though, once we are at that 4,000 employee mark, we will be responsible for about 5% of the population.
Okay, we'll move on to the main conversation in a moment. But the other question I wanted to ask you, Jannette, whilst we're sort of talking about the changemakery sort of stuff, is tell us about the charity that you support. I know you're really believe very strongly in a charity in Atlanta.
Yeah, so I support Wellspring Living here in Atlanta, and being in Atlanta and one of the busiest airports in the world, unfortunately, a side effect of that is that we experience and have a lot of human trafficking that comes through here. And so Wellspring Living supports victims of human trafficking by providing them resources, community-based and residential programs to help victims of human trafficking, build their lives from that point on, from, having a career, having families, being a successful person to be able to live a happy and healthy life.
And we love the fact that we can support Wellspring and Living on your behalf. But tell me, why do you like being a change maker? What do you get out of being one of our Benevo change makers?
I have been involved with Benevo for probably 7 years, I would say, on and off in various different, capacities, but being a change maker, as I have been for at least 5 years, I love being at the forefront to see what kind of cutting edge technology Benevo is coming up with, to be able to participate in helping to form that technology and inform Benevo as Benevo builds the technology.
Oh dear, I really don't know what's happening. We're going to move on, and we're going to be looking now at global mobility from an intern's perspective. So let's run that video, and hopefully we'll get Jannette back in a moment. So let's just run that video. So when the technology gremlins are out, they're out. But it's great to have you back, Jannette. It's great to have you on the show, Reagan. And we're now going to be talking about internships. And actually, a question for the audience. I asked this question on LinkedIn, but I'd be interested to see what the audience says. But the question is this: what is your view on having a global mobility intern working in your team? And I'll give you 3 choices. Okay, you can either say, fantastic idea, love it, or you could be a bit sort of met in the middle, it could work, not sure, or you could just actually, say it's a terrible idea, waste of time. So out in the audience, please do tell us what your view is. Do you think that having an intern on your program is a good idea or not a good idea? So out in the audience, feed in your comments and we'll work out what we're going to do. But let me just start with you, Jannette. Is you said that when we were chatting earlier that you felt you'd won the intern lottery. Tell us a bit about how Scout decided about having an intern, and also how you put forward the business case that the intern would be an intern in global mobility.
Yeah, so we had interns for the very first time last summer in other business units. This was the first year that the people team, which is almost 50 people strong at Scout Motors, was allowed to have an intern. And everyone on the people team was allowed to basically put in their requests for what they would have an intern do, and a list of projects that an intern would work on. And when I submitted my request with the things I wanted our intern to work on, they said, okay, Jannette, you get the intern. And I was like, woohoo. So then I went about posting the job and recruiting. And we did have some minimum requirements that we wouldn't be relocating or providing any sort of relocation support to an intern. So the intern would need to be physically located in Columbia, South Carolina, which is where our plant is being built and which is where my team sits, even though I sit in Atlanta. So it was important that that person is either already there or plans to be there, at least for the duration.
Okay, so you double won the intern lottery, because you won the internal lottery because you got an intern, and then you won it again because not just an intern, but you got Reagan as your intern. So yes. Reagan, that brings me on to you. Tell us a bit about yourself. What's your backstory?
Yeah, so my name is Reagan. I just graduated from the University of South Carolina in May. And then I was a head guard at Strom Thurmond Wellness and Fitness Center. And I've also recently had an internship at an insurance company. So that's just a little bit about me.
Cool. Okay. And how did you come across Scout as a company?
Yeah, so me and my boyfriend were actually on the way to our hometown, and we passed by a lot of construction, and I asked him, what are they building over here? And he said it was going to be Scout Motors, and I didn't know at the time what Scout Motors was, but I was job searching, So I went on their website and I saw that they had an internship open for global mobility. And I didn't know what global mobility was either. So I had to do my own little research. And I was like, okay, I've heard about some of the things that they do in some of my college classes. The cycle of an expat and moving them to a different country and getting them settled in. So that's really what piqued my interest.
Cool. And we asked the question earlier, what is your view on having a global mobility intern? And we gave those choices. Just to let you know what the audience has said when we did this. This is the poll results. 93% thought it's a fantastic idea. 5% were in the meh category, it could work, not sure. And 2% said terrible idea. So the vast majority think it's a fantastic idea. So Jannette, from your perspective, having an intern, fantastic idea?
I think it's a fantastic idea. My main intention of having an intern was certainly to help expose someone who is fresh out of college, maybe has an HR or some sort of international business or relations.
All right. We are having problems here. So Rob Zeit said, lifeguarding seems like good experience for a global mobility professional. Always need to have your eyes open. So can you see, Reagan, we're sorry about the internet problems we're having today, but Reagan, can you see any links between being a global mobility intern and being
So
I see that as a lifeguard, you do need to think on your feet and always be ready for an emergency, but even non-emergencies, let's say, someone cuts their foot on something, just being that caring individual where you can make them feel comfortable and calm. I feel like that can definitely relate to assignees and making them feel comfortable in a brand new country that maybe they've never been to before.
I'm loving this answer. We didn't rehearse this. We didn't talk about this in the green room. It's just Bob Zeitz's question. But I never once, if you'd asked me to compare global mobility to another profession, I don't think I would ever have picked on being a lifeguard. But actually, you're right. It's spot on, isn't it? It's about being able to deal with emergencies at the same time staying cool and calm. It's, you know what? You win the prize. Rob, you win the prize for best question. And Reagan, you win the prize for the answer. Jannette, I know we're having awful gremlins today, but we'll keep on persevering. You were telling us a bit about why an internship is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, so I really love the idea of helping folks be exposed early on in their career lives to what is available to them in terms of career paths. And so being that we're in the people team and Reagan is sitting in South Carolina, she is being exposed to total rewards, HR business partner work, talent acquisition, employee engagement, and she is just getting her hands in everything, and everyone is exposed to her from very high levels of the organization. So it's really a great opportunity for her, and I just want to support her in wherever she decides to go.
Yeah, and Reagan, would you encourage other people to do internships?
Yeah, absolutely. Even as a recent graduate, when I graduated from USC on the job search, I had been...
That's the University of South Carolina.
University of South Carolina.
California, just checking which one it was.
But I started job searching November before 2025. And I was just... the job market isn't the greatest at the moment. And I was like, you know what, let me take a look at internships. Maybe I, might have a little bit of more luck there. But I'm glad I found Scout Motors and they chose me because they are really up and coming. They're going to be big. And I feel like an internship is really investing in your future.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an amazing company to work for. I mean, Jannette, how exciting is Scout? I mean, I just can't get my head around the fact how fast you're growing. It must be so buzzy.
It is very exciting. Things move pretty fast around here, but everyone is very enthusiastic and loves working on the project. So it's been a really positive experience.
Okay. And Jannette, how did you prepare to have an intern? I mean, presumably you were thinking about it before Reagan turned up, and you're thinking about what Reagan could do. I mean, what was your thought process when you were preparing the internship program?
Well, I knew she would be here for a short period of time. And to be honest, we have a fantastic employee onboarding department here at Scout as part of the people team. And so they had an entire employee onboarding for interns that's designed specifically for our interns, not just Reagan, that involves like getting to know Scout, getting to know, like, how do you develop your career from here? And also ice cream socials and fun things. I mean, there's a list of probably 20 different events that are planned for Reagan and our other Scout interns during the summer that they can participate in, all ending with a presentation that our interns get to share with us about their internship and one or more projects that they are working on this summer and how that went for them.
I'm really hoping when you do that presentation, Reagan, you'll say that one of the highlights was being on The View from the Top.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, that's just wonderful. So, okay, so how long, Reagan? How long is the internship?
So I started May 19th, and then my last week will be August 4th.
Okay, so you started May
19th, yes.
Okay, so you're talking under 3 months. You sort of, yeah. So it's fair. And then what's the longer term plan?
So recently, a position has opened up in talent acquisition, and the head of the department actually encouraged me to apply. So I think being able to connect in all of the different departments like talent acquisition, employee engagement, total rewards, has really helped get my name out there, and also with the help of Jannette supporting me and encouraging me to connect and have meetings with different directors.
Okay. Now, if I was taking an intern, and I was in Atlanta, my intern was in Colombia, I'd be a bit sort of worried about how do I actually manage an intern remotely. We were joking earlier about, interns. One of the fear with an intern is they just get told to make coffee. But obviously that's not going to be very practical if they're hundreds of miles away. But Jannette, in all seriousness, how do you manage Reagan as an intern when you are so many miles away?
So very similarly to how I connect with my employees who are located there, we have one-on-ones once per week. And then we have team meetings also once per week. And then if we have something special that comes up in between, then we can connect. And we also communicate via Teams chat all the time. I connect with people who she's interacting there in the office with. So I know that, having been there, and I met her in person a couple weeks ago, I know that being there in person, she is being well looked after and well cared for.
Cool. And so tell us about your day. What's your typical day like, Reagan?
So my typical day so I get in, I check my email, go through my Teams chats. I am actually never bored. I always have something to do, which is really exciting because I have had other internships where I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? But here I'm busy, and I do keep a list of everything that I have done for the end of the internship presentation. But I usually work some of my time with global mobility. I'm also working with total rewards and compensation as the emails roll through. I also sit with some people just shadowing with talent acquisition. So really every day is something new. No day is quite the same. So I really enjoy that.
Cool. And what advice would you give to other people wanting to be interns?
Yeah, I would say don't expect to know everything. Just like me, I didn't know what global mobility was, but I stepped out of my comfort zone, did my own research, and just put my best foot forward. And, believe in yourself. They know that you don't know everything. You're here in the internship to learn and to grow, and they obviously saw a potential in you. So just have a go-getter attitude, and be a sponge and be coachable.
And Jannette, from your perspective, what are the pitfalls of having a we're talking about all the pluses, and they are huge, but are there any pitfalls, any challenges you need to be aware of when you decide to have an intern?
Well, I haven't really encountered any yet so far. So I would say just, be aware of what you have time for. If you want to have an intern join your team, that you do have, I feel very responsible, not just to Reagan, but to both of my employees on my team, to support them and, to make sure that they have what they need from me to be successful. So just make sure you have the bandwidth, I would say.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse for everybody if you have an intern, as you were talking about earlier, Reagan, they're sort of basically twiddling their thumbs saying, what can I do? What can I do?
Right.
And nothing is better than being busy, to make the day go quickly and to give career and job satisfaction. So, Jannette, how did you do that? Before Reagan started, did you put together a program? Was it like an induction and then a formal program? What was she going to be doing in the first sort of, projects to do? How did you?
So I had a list of projects, and I looked at the projects with my team and, talked to them about it. One of the main things that we wanted for Reagan to be involved in is we have our intranet is called the Trailhead, and we have been trying to build a global mobility trailhead within our company trailhead so that our scouts have resources to go to, whether it's assignees or foreign nationals who need immigration information. So that was one of the main projects we wanted for Reagan to be involved in, as well as having exposure, to what it's like to support assignees as they're joining. And so my employee Danielle, who is in South Carolina, it's her primary role to be very hands-on with our assignees and their families who are coming in, getting their social security numbers, getting banking set up, getting their driver's license. So Reagan has a front row seat to everything that our assignees are experiencing real time, and how Scout and Danielle in South Carolina are supporting on those topics.
Cool. And shout out then to Danielle and the rest of your team out there in the audience. If you've got any questions for Reagan or Jannette, then please write them in the comments box. And also, if you've had any experience of having an intern or indeed being an intern, then again, feed that in and let's just hear what you guys have got to say. That we'll try and get some of that in. But it is a fascinating process that you do. And have you taken care, Jannette, I think you have from what we were saying earlier, to expose your intern, Reagan, to all sides of global mobility and HR? So you're not just sort of sticking her in as like, you just do this project. You're getting like a broad expertise.
Yeah, definitely. Right before Reagan joined, on one of my strategy meetings that we have weekly with the larger people team, I said, hey, Global Mobility has Reagan Miller joining next week. And so please know that she is.
Oh no, the gremlins have come back. So Reagan, carry on. This really is a trial we're going through. So tell us, from your perspective, did you get broad experience?
Yes, I have. Like I said, with every HR department that you can think of, I have connected with. Whether that be just shadowing and watch what they do, or actually having an in-depth meeting where I kind of interview them about, what exactly they do, their day-to-day tasks, and why they chose to do that, and their path to where they are now. So I feel like, being a sponge, learning the different things that they have done, comparing it to what I'm doing, and yeah, just using that as inspiration.
Cool. And so, Jannette, you were saying, I think we lost you, but your perspective, creating different areas for Reagan to work in within mobility.
Yeah, definitely. So just trying to expose her to as much as possible within global mobility, immigration, destination services, building options for, improving our technology or our processes internally. I introduced her to other, folks within the people team here, and early on, she was able to jump in and help our total rewards manager in supporting candidates and assessing, what is a good compensation range for them. So she's actually been able to get some real hands-on experience in doing lots of different things, and hopefully she will continue to have those opportunities.
It is just amazing. Reagan, if I can ask you, but of the areas of mobility that you've touched, what do you enjoy the most? What areas do you enjoy the most?
I think the area that I enjoy the most would have to be just being a cheerleader for that person, being the caring person to, listen to anything exciting that they have going on, or maybe any concerns. Being here in office with Danielle, I have seen her be that safe space for all of the assignees. They come up to her desk all the time and, either share exciting news or, just pull her for a chat and just say like, hey, I'm concerned about this. So she is definitely the person that they can go and put their hands on and just say like, hey, just to talk to, because really Danielle is the first, face of someone they know in a new country. So I feel like that's really important. But that is what I'm passionate about. I guess you could call me the mom of my friend group. Just an empathetic and caring person. So that's just what I'm passionate about.
Okay, and we've had a question that's come in. I'll address it to you, Reagan, from Rajasekar. He said, what advice would you give to somebody navigating the transition, he says from international student, but let's just say student, to professional? Okay, so this is your first job, or I'm not sure it's quite your first job, but one of your first jobs. What advice would you give somebody navigating that transition from student to professional?
Yeah, so this is definitely my first full-time role. As a college student, you may have one class a day, you may have two classes a day. And then my senior year, my last semester, all of my classes were online. So it's definitely a transition. I had to make a routine for myself to really stick with it, because when you're not used to being in an office for 8.5 hours, sometimes it can, it bogged me down for the first week. I'll be honest. So I just really had to get used to the routine and then going to bed at 9 p.m. But, take breaks, get up, walk the office, go chat with a friend for a minute or two, or if you need to go step outside and breathe some fresh air, definitely do that, because I myself don't think it's very healthy to stare at a computer screen for a complete 8 hours.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's not healthy to do that. And certainly one of my tips is make sure you stand for at least a minute every hour. Don't sort of stay stuck in a chair, because going from being a student or indeed a lifeguard, I suspect, you are a bit more mobile than you are in a job. But Jannette, from your perspective, what advice would you give somebody starting in mobility for the very first time, or indeed any job for the first time out of uni?
I would
I would just say, kind of echo Reagan's comments, be open, be a sponge, offer help, and be present, because I think Reagan would probably not have the same opportunities to exposure to the leadership and the different functions within Scout HR and people operations that she is having if she were not physically in the office. It's just I think if I were to go back and to do it again, I would do exactly what Reagan is doing.
Yeah. And Reagan, you're sort of millennial, Gen Z, or whatever the.
Yes, and Gen Z.
But you've come into this industry, and in some ways, the industry is trying to change, but also it's an industry that's been around a long time. Have you seen anything that surprised you, where you're saying, well, actually, how come they're not doing this or doing that the way that if you like, your generation's perspective on what you're seeing in the workplace?
Yeah, so as everyone knows, Gen Z is very much, on our phones all the time using AI. But I think in Scout Motors, they haven't shied away from using AI, even for things just as small as, polish this sentence, make this sound more professional. But with global mobility right now, we're using a lot of Excel spreadsheets, but we are working towards a better platform.
Good. Absolutely. I'm spreadsheets are back then. Absolutely. But do you sometimes find that, you going in as the Gen Zer on the team are, how do I put this polite, the most tech savvy? That, you're doing in a way different, maybe that others aren't, because, you're sort of you've all grown up with it. Or is that not?
I can actually say that I am not the most tech savvy person. I actually have
to generation here.
We're more of like the TikTok side of things and AI, but I took a whole class just on Excel in college my freshman year. That was 4 years ago. So when I came into Scout Motors, I needed to brush up on my Excel skills. Just because it's something that you can forget about small things if you're not using it every day. But here we are using it every day. So I feel like I have rekindled those skills and learned more with Excel.
Yeah. I've always got this feeling that they teach you things in school, especially in high school, but by the time you get years into the workforce, were skills you didn't need to know because technology has moved on, and it goes back over generations, whether it was teaching people back in the day shorthand and nobody does shorthand, or, they'll teach typing skills and then you find actually most things are voice activated, or, they're teaching, Excel and PowerPoint, and now maybe AI is going to be doing more of it. And whatever they're going to, I feel sorry for the teachers, whatever they're going to be teaching the kids who are in class now, probably in 10 years' time when they're in the workforce, it's probably going to be less relevant then too, because it's always a bit of a game of catch up because technology moves so fast. But Jannette, from your perspective, if you were to have another intern, what would you do differently?
Well, I want to make sure that I always have something meaningful for an intern to do. Next year at this time, it's possible I won't have something meaningful for an intern to do, and someone else on the people team might have something more meaningful. I will say we are in the process of moving from one HRIS platform to another HRIS platform, in addition to moving from one payroll system to another payroll system. So we are getting ready to have a lot going on. And so a lot of my resources are going to be dedicated to supporting on that. But yeah, I would just make sure that you have something that an intern can sink their teeth into for at least 2 months. And if you don't, then you have a friend practitioner within your group that does.
Cool. And here's a question that's coming. It's a fascinating question. I'll ask you both it. So this is unscripted. So so it's here from Bostine. He's asked, are there any unspoken habits or attitude that set apart high performers on your team? So I'll start with you, Jannette. Are there any unspoken habits or attitudes that you see that really set apart the high performers?
Wow, that is a really good question. I would have to say anyone who is willing to put themselves out there, raise their hand, be present, offer help, maybe when it was unsolicited. I would say they are probably very high performers.
Cool. And Reagan, with you, I'm going to turn the question. I'm going to say, what makes a good manager? What are the unspoken habits or attitudes that sets apart a high-performing manager from somebody else?
Yeah, so to me, a great manager is someone with great communication. So I don't like to be left in the dark, or bored. I like a manager that has a plan and communicates with me one-on-one. And then a manager that knows how to critique then and there. Don't wait a week or a month to tell me that I did something wrong here, and now that I've messed up for a whole month and you didn't let me know. So definitely that constructive criticism then and there. And then also an encouraging manager. You don't want a manager that's like, do this, do that, and then never, ever receive praise. So I like that.
Okay. And we've got one, and maybe our last question. So I'll ask this one for you, Jannette. It's what really resonated with me is the fresh perspective to always be a sponge, eager to learn, unafraid to try and fail. Based on what you've seen at Scout, what skills or qualities would help an aspiring young engineer? Okay, this is obviously a very personal question. Aspiring young engineer close the gap between day one and making a real contribution. We maybe make that more generic, but what skills or qualities helps an aspiring new recruit close the gap between day one and making a real contribution?
Well, I'm gonna first say patience, because you can't you got to make sure you have your expectations set appropriately from day one. Wait for the right moment. Maybe talk to whoever is designated as your mentor or leader and have a very vulnerable conversation with them about what your hopes and aspirations are, and then they can help guide you along the way, because what may be right for you might not be right for someone else, and everyone has different goals and aspirations. So find someone you trust. I think is be patient and find someone you trust, and don't be afraid to have real conversations with them.
Wow, great answer. We are actually out of time now, so I'm going to bring back onto stage. Julie had to leave us, but I'm going to Beth from Benevo and our amazing producer, Tally. Next week, we are back when we're going to be talking about AI ethics and strategic readiness with Karen Hale from Indeed, Global Mobility at a Pivotal Moment. It's been amazing having you on the show. Jannette, you've been just amazing. I know you've had a couple of internet problems, but we've come through it perfectly. Reagan, you're an absolute star. Really, really grateful to have you on the show. We wish you all the best for your future career. And I'm sure you will have a very, very successful career for years to come. So everybody, this has been The View from the Top. I'm your host, Brian Friedman. We are back next week when we're going to be talking about global mobility at a pivotal moment, AI, ethics, and strategic readiness. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.